was just doing a little work on my truck radio here, and I thought this might be useful information for some of you. For those with the factory Infinity AM/FM CD cassette combo player. Now this one was having a couple problems. If you'd put a CD in, it'd just say error and spit it back out. And if you tried it about 20 times, it would finally read it. And the buttons on the front, you'd have to, punch them pretty good to get it to work. So first thing to do is take the radio out, and that's a pretty easy thing to do on the Dodge trucks anyway. And then pull all the knobs off for the 3 faders and the volume knob, and then the faceplate's just got clips around it. You pull it off. I already got it loose. Take that guy off, and then on the top, this plate here sits on there like that. You just got to take out those 2 screws right there, and it comes off. You look, this is the front. Right down in there you can see the laser lens that reads the CD. Usually what happens is that gets dusty, and that's why it won't want to read the CD. So get yourself a Q-tip and some rubbing alcohol. I'd like to use the 90% alcohol, but whatever you got will work. And just get the end of the Q-tip wet, and carefully, you gotta have the CD out, of course, but reach in there and get at the head and wash the head of the laser, and usually that'll take care of it. Otherwise, there is some tweaking adjustments that you can do if it still won't work after doing that. I won't get into that, but there's a guy online who posted the directions on how to tweak it. And then for the buttons, this is all these on here do is they just push on these little buttons here on the circuit board, and to get, when these get bad, just a little micro screwdriver like this, and there's a metal clip here. Just take that screwdriver, you pop that clip off, and get your little pliers. You get this metal thing off. The other side off. There we go. And now this gray plastic piece comes out, and now there's a little green rubber silicone piece, and right in there there's 2 contacts on the top and bottom, and again, Q-tip, either with rubbing alcohol or some kind of a contact cleaner. Soak the Q-tip in there and just shove it in there and work it around and clean up the contacts inside of there. And then on the other side, get that cleaned off, and then just get yourself a regular old pencil and take that pencil and color in that, like the little brown button. Gently just rub the pencil over there, because graphite is actually a conductor, and this will help it contact the contacts in there, and it will make the button work better. Do not take the pencil and shove it in there and go around, because you'll get a whole bunch of graphite then inside of there, and the radio will think the button's pushed all the time. So just take and color in that guy, and then you drop the assembly is the opposite of disassembly. Just put the little green guy back down in there, and then put the gray guy on top, same way it come out, and then put just snap the metal clip back on the same way it came out, and then put it all back together, and then I'll quick go over throwing it back in the truck. One more note about these radios. You can replace individual components. So if you have one where you just give up on the CD player, and you have another radio that has a good CD player and something else doesn't work, you can actually unscrew the CD player section of the radio and change it. That's not too big of a deal. You just got to pull out a couple screws. I don't exactly remember which ones, but I know that's one of them. It's only a couple screws, and you can just take that out. Same thing with the tuner. the part that does the AM/FM tuning is this card here on what would be the right hand side as it's in the dash, where the antenna cable plugs in down here. And another issue with these radios is all of a sudden you can't get any radio stations. It's just static on everything, and it's not the antenna, it's actually in this card. You have to take this cover off, but you can kind of see it right there. There's a little metal cover over the actual tuner itself, and what happens is there's a little solder in there between the chipboard. It's like a ground solder between the chipboard and the metal housing that cracks, and that's what causes that whole sporadic radio reception problem. Now it's such a minute crack in there you can't really see it with the naked eye, so your best bet is to just either resolder everything or take the radio apart, plug it into the dash, and sit there with a little screwdriver and just start kind of pushing and moving the sides of that box. Like, pop the cover off and just kind of move the sides around, and then all of a sudden you'll find where that broke solder is, and just take your soldering gun and resolder it, throw it back together, back in business. And well, now I'm going to put the faceplate back on and head out to the truck. Okay, so just take and snap it back in. I didn't take a video of pulling it out. 2 plugs there, and then this green and black ground wire, which has a bolt, and bolts in right in the upper right corner. 10mm. So let me ratchet. Now plug the antenna in and just slide it into its hole. Now, Chrysler had interchangeable radios for quite a few years. This is not the original radio to this truck. Originally it just had the AM/FM cassette. So I bought this radio at a junkyard, and it'll just bolt right in, no wiring changes. Same thing if you have an older first gen Dodge, same thing, you can just bolt this radio right in. It's just plug and play, and then you'll have a factory CD player in your first gen. And like the Dodge Caravans are the same way, as well as whatever the Chrysler and Plymouth Dodge cars. So long as the front's this flat fronted style radio with the 2 bolts, just plug it right in and it'll work. And these again are like a 10mm. Snug it in, and then tilt the steering column down. Dash plastic slides right in, and you got 2 plugs to hook up the power outlet and the lighter, and I dropped the lighter plug back in the hole, so I'll have to fish that back up. But then you snap it on. 2 screws hold the cup holder, 2 screws hold the ashtray. Done. Okay, I got it put back in, and now it's push button, and it doesn't take a lot to push any of the buttons. And take burn CD, throw her in. First shot, it plays. And again with this, just push tape, plays tape. AM/FM, back to the tuner. CD, back to CD. Beauty. As I was saying, with like the first gens, you'll have a radio that looks something like this. This one's just an AM/FM, no cassette. And the plugs are in a different location, but they are the same plugs. So, like I say, as long as it's got the ear tab on the lower left corner and the upper right corner, you can bolt one of those new CD cassette combo decks in. I may do that in this truck someday, but yeah, someday.